folks, this is Keith Gribbins with Compact Equipment Magazine. I hope everyone's doing well out there in these scary times. This is a new video series we're pulling together called Compact Equipment Conversations. A lot of us are still stuck at home, but we're taking the opportunity to still connect and talk about all the cool construction equipment that was released just in the first quarter here, especially with ConExpo. One of my first guests is going to be one of my favorite people in the industry, a guy that I've been talking to for at least over a decade, Greg Zupancic, skid steer track loader product manager with John Deere Construction and Forestry. Greg, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Keith. How are you?
Just holding up at home and trying to find ways to still do work. So we're doing pretty well, actually, so can't complain.
Yeah, same here, absolutely. For us, it's a little bit of a change, but with my job in product marketing, I can work virtually and via the phone as well to keep, customer demanded products coming out on a regular basis.
That's about as good as it gets right now. So we actually did get to hang out, Greg and I, a few weeks ago at ConExpo ConAg. Probably the last trade event we'll be at here for a second. But John Deere definitely raised a lot of eyebrows at the show, releasing one of the biggest products I felt with the 333G SmartGrade compact track loader. Now, this is a track loader that's sort of engineered for grade control applications and dirt work. It comes with a 6-way dozer blade, a massless grade control system, the ability to use 3D software integrated already, and a new technology called Dozer Mode, which we'll talk about here in a second. Well, let's dive into the 333G SmartGrade compact track loader. How does this unit differ from the regular 333G series in your unit, which I believe is your biggest track loader?
What many customers that will be viewing this know, it's almost impossible to run a dozer blade on the front of a skid steer or a track loader manually. The wheelbase, the stability of the machine typically is a little less stable than a dozer. And therefore, we learned pretty quickly that one of the keys to making that work, to run it manually or even automatically if you have grade control, is to be able to overcome some of that instability. And the dozer blade is the start. So we found that the blade that has the right weight, the right height of the blade, the width of the blade, making sure that that blade attaches to the front of the machine. These quick catches by all suppliers have a different degree of angle. And so that angle, as the blade engages the ground and making it so when it engages, you can cut a smooth grade. Those attributes are really important. So I guess what I'm saying in terms of a dozer blade, any dozer blade, one dozer blade does not fit all track loaders because each track loader has different heights, different quick catch angles, and different performance levels of that machine. The weight of the machine also matters when you're trying to push and cut a straight grade. And I didn't really mention this in the beginning of that question, but one of the reasons it's hard to run a dozer blade is it becomes very choppy. It's hard to make a smooth cut. And a key to this, if you're going to be good, is to be able to have great fine grading, is you need a really smooth as glass type of a cut at the end of the day. And automating the machine as well as optimizing the design of the blade to match up with that machine is one of the keys in our design.
Very cool. Now, this uses a massless grade control system, and that's kind of been a hot new thing on the market where now these attachments that are being automated, they don't use the masks that we typically see. Can you go over what a massless grade control system is compared to a regular one? And then I know that this unit is really being touted as using 3D grade control system, but can it use 2D systems as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me start with the massless portion of it. So a key thing we learned is the masks work well. They are out there in front. They're typically attached to the attachment themselves in a skid steer form. And so there's a lot of angle on that blade, that quick catch, the attachment angle, if you will. There's a lot of degrees of freedom to move. And so what happens is if an operator would roll back or dump the attachment or the bucket or the blade, those masts are no longer perpendicular to the ground. So you can lose reception with your 2D systems with depending on how far out of range those masts are. So they stick up straight up in the air, and that's how they function best and are most accurate. But if you don't have them sticking straight up, then you lose some accuracy, if you will. The other thing about the customers were really just saying that those masts get in the way in a lot of cases. So they are just tooling along, and they go into some low area and they might knock them off and damage them. And the equipment, the grade control equipment, as I mentioned, is fairly expensive relative to the cost of a compact piece of equipment. So any damage that you cost obviously would be downtime for that job. So they really pushed for us to design something that's more seamlessly integrated. The other part of the integration is the monitor usually is mounted on the attachment themselves when in the market today. So you look through the cab glass if you have a door on the front, and you have to be able to see that monitor outside of the machine. It's not typically mounted into the cab. It's possible. If you did that, you'd have to run wires through the cab door or under the cab door and from the attachment to the operator station. And so those can be damaged as well. So the integration part is something we're proud of, and it's something that our customers had asked for us to do in the development of this solution.
Yeah, it's all very high tech and cool. The 6-way dozer blade, also cool, and that can be utilized with a new technology called Dozer Mode. Maybe we could explain what that is exactly. And then do you see any other sort of attachments being specialized for this unit, like maybe a greater box blade or something like that?
Yeah, good question as well. I think this is, so stepping back a little, the low level of unemployment and the unskilled operators, they're looking for automation. And this is just a roadblock in our journey to automate our machines for our customers to help them be more precise and more accurate. Less passes to get the job done and more productivity. And in terms of that, one of the features that makes this really enabled for the customer is what we call Dozer Mode. And so at a push of a button in the cab, our software is all driven and designed in-house at John Deere at our factory in Dubuque. We have programmers there that can really take advantage of our electro-hydraulic system and program the machine to do anything that you can think of. So in this case, Dozer Mode, so you can push a button and it will change the typical traditional skid steer track loader control pattern to what we call Dozer Mode. And the reason that you need that is because I'll try to explain it briefly, but the reason you need that is if you pulled back on the right joystick, if it was in skid steer track loader mode, the boom would come off the ground and it would raise up like if you were loading a truck. Well, when you're using a dozer blade, you don't want to use your boom for the elevation. You want to keep the boom down on the stops of the machine so that draft load comes through the blade right onto the frame of the machine. It keeps it very rigid. Once you take the boom up off the frame of the machine, or what we call the boom stops, that linkage, there's a lot of linkage to make that lift system rise up high. That linkage, there's some play in it. It becomes what I would call a little squishy. And so you lose some accuracy, and that amplifies some of that choppiness I was talking about that you don't want if you're trying to cut a really nice, smooth finish grade. So what we do with Dozer Mode, when you pull back on the right joystick now, the boom is programmed to stay down when you're in that Dozer Mode, and the elevation then is bringing the attachment, quick attach is creating that elevation. So you keep the rigidity with the boom down, and then you pull back on the joystick, and those and the attachment or the bucket would rise. And you can get about 2 feet or so, 2.5 feet of elevation that way. And once you come up above that 2 feet, the machine is sort of assuming that you're no longer going to be cutting a grade because it's no longer down at a low level to do that or push dirt. and the boom will automatically take over from there. So it's assuming the guy is actually doing a windroll and pushing the material off to the side. He's going to come back then into that same cut. He squeezes the right joystick trigger, and then the blade goes right back to the map to finish his pass exactly where he left it off. And so that's another part of the Dozer mode. The right trigger is able to, on the fly, able to be able to get him back into the auto mode, or the map. I call it follow the map of the grade, if you will.
Very cool. Now, when do you think these will be available, the 333G SmartGrade?
Yeah, we are working hard every day. As you know, ConExpo comes once every 3 years. And so it's a huge event, huge opportunity for us we didn't want to miss. So typically we wouldn't show, we're very conservative as a company, we wouldn't show technologies that are further out at a trade show. But in this case, it was our opportunity to show the world and get feedback as well. And that was spectacular for us to gather that. But one of the trade-offs is customers today are asking for when they can buy one. And we do not have that availability. So we're working hard every day to make this available later this year. I know that's not a specific answer. There's a lot of testing going on and still additional customer validation. Depending on how that goes, we think we're ahead of the game based on the ConExpo feedback. But we don't know what we don't know in terms of how much more redesign or resoftware programming that will need to be done based on customer feedback. We have a lot of it completed. So best case scenario is sometime early fall. And I would say worst case scenario is later this year. Before the end of this calendar year is our goal.
Excellent. It's an exciting machine, so we're excited to see it come out. Let us know when that's going to happen exactly when we get down the road here. And maybe my final question, just in general, Greg, if a contractor wants to get into using a track loader for grading applications, what types of considerations do you feel they should consider?
So it's an easy one for me. One of the things about a track loader is the versatility. So, you want to be able to traverse dirt and have all of those grading attributes. But you also, one of the keys is to be able to move on to finished surfaces. So having the rubber tracks to go onto driveways and over sidewalks without causing damage of maybe a steel track system. So keeping the versatility of a track loader, you can add a push of a button, take this blade off, unconnect the hydraulic lines, and put on any of 50 or 100 attachments that are out there in the industry, just as simple as a push of a button, no extra tools required, really. So that versatility, thinking about that in terms of your purchase, how much versatility do you want? There are dedicated machines that are coming. Of course, we have crawler dozers in the John Deere portfolio today. So I'm, as a product marketing manager, I'm not so interested in taking on making compact equipment that weigh more than are transportable behind a pickup. I'm not interested in losing that versatility of toollessly changing from attachment to attachment. And I'm not terribly interested in losing some of the benefits of a rubber track loader as well. So that's our John Deere strategy. There'll be many more technologies that other OEMs are coming out to win in this business. But those are the things I think about. What will you do with the machine when you're not doing grading? I think is an important question for customers to consider as well.
Always great info, Greg. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Anytime, Keith. I appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. CE readers, you can learn more at www.compactequip.com. You can learn more there about John Deere and the 333G SmartGrade compact track loader as more information becomes available. Thanks for tuning in and be safe out there. Bye now.